Let's get some reaction to that as well from Jade Flack, who is a 22-year-old from Chelmsford and was a freelance actor who worked in theatres and in school. She's been on this show many times over the years, but clearly that's no longer possible for her at the moment. So, Jade, good afternoon. Welcome back to BBC Essex.
Thank you. It's good to be back. How are you?
It's lovely to catch up with you. And it's always lovely to have you on the show when we were talking about, those glory days of the theatre and things that you were involved with. A very different picture for you now. Just tell me a little bit about what's happened to your career.
Oh, dear. Well, it's taking a completely different direction, I think. And I think a lot of people are facing what I'm facing. Unfortunately, my line of work as an actor predominantly works around children's theatre and going into schools to help educate, to help entertain as well. So obviously that's come to a complete standstill. Unfortunately, any sort of working with other people, so anything above 2 people or so has gone out the window as well. So any sort of educational videos as well for adult learning as well has completely gone out the window. So we are relying heavily on a good internet connection and a decent Zoom account.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how you're getting on financially, because you've applied for universal credit, haven't you?
Yes, I have, because at the moment I'm not with a company that can furlough me. I know some are lucky, especially those who have come off of cruise lines or from entertainment parks. They're with a company who can furlough them. But I'm massively self-employed, so I'm having to go through the hoops of universal credit.
And how are you finding that, first of all? Take us through it. I mean, applying for it, and then how long ago was it, for instance?
So applying for it as an actor, it's a little bit like jumping through hoops, because you're a bit of a grey area. There's unfortunately some confusion sometimes about your different contracts and trying to explain that just because you did a contract last month does not mean that you are continuously fulfilling this contract. And normally, unfortunately, the case would be that you'd jump through all of these hoops pre-COVID, and then you'd find a job. So all the work that you've done would go down the drain with universal credit. But I've been applying for about possibly a month, just over a month now, because from their eyes, I'm able to work. But from my eyes, I'm not, and there's just been some communication mishaps going on there.
It's interesting what you say there about being an actor and that grey area, because there isn't the opportunities for you to get work in the area that you specialise in. So do you have a kind of a plan B or anything like that? Because at the end of the day, you've got to make some money somehow.
Well, yeah, you're completely right. I'm fully aware that jumping on a stage and projecting at the moment could cause a lot more harm than good at this time for performers and audiences alike, because there hasn't been enough conclusive evidence. Even if we do adhere to social distancing and take out rows of seats and such and keep such a barrier between audience and performers, that we can't ensure everyone's safety. And I'm looking at the environment that we're in, and because of that environment, I have sought other employment, luckily, just because, as well as being an actor, I work in children care. So I've been luckily been able to have something concrete to go into. But obviously, it's not something that I want to do, because I know a lot of people think that a lot of us are giving up on the arts, and it's not that at all. You could say the same for any performer who's had to take a job in retail at this time. It's about survival, and because there isn't an arts furlough scheme for freelancers, I'm having to refuse a career that I've poured my blood, sweat and tears into just to make sure that I'm able to eat, which unfortunately is the bottom line here.
Yeah. Listening to what the Chancellor was saying there about this scheme, would that be of any help to you right now? Can you imagine you benefiting in any way from this scheme at all, Jade?
Myself personally, perhaps not. And that's possibly just because I'm fortunate enough to have a plan B. However, for anyone who has just graduated and has seen the foundations just crumble before them, this scheme is probably going to help them a lot. And I'm really thankful that at least new graduates or those who have maybe just taken the leap to go self-employed before COVID, that they'll be able to at least have something, even if it's not their choice in career, but it is something just until this all blows over. And we'll hopefully, fingers crossed and touching wood, that we'll be able to then slowly progress back into theatres, into live performance.
And just finally, Jed, I mean, you're talking about your friends there, and I know that the theatre community is very close, particularly at this time, everybody helping each other through this very difficult period. I mean, have you been helping each other in that respect? Particularly, you know, I always worry that it's not just about finance either. It's about the mental attitude, isn't it? And about how it affects you in your everyday life, because performers love to perform, and of course that's something you just can't do right now.
Of course, yeah, you're completely right. It's the one thing that I can say about this whole situation is the fact that we as collaborative have been so supportive of one another, because we're all there. Whether or not it was due to COVID beforehand, we've always been in ruts. There's always been times where work's dried up, where we don't know what's happening. Professional or amateur alone, we always stick together. There always seems to be that comrade in arms type feel, and it's been lovely because I've seen people work together who you never thought would work together. There's been so many Zoom play readings. It's just been a lovely sense of community, and especially at the moment with everything that's going on, there's been so many lovely gestures on Twitter and on Instagram with a Light It in Red as well, showing your solidarity and just supporting the Arts Pledge, and it's really touching to see.
Wonderful. Jade, it's lovely to catch up with you. Keep your chin up, and all the very best to the rest of your friends and everybody in the theatre community right now. It's a really difficult time for everyone at this moment. So thanks very much indeed for being with us. That's Jade Flack.